Hi, hello. Today we're going to be talking about the 7-star Hisuian Samurott, which is the Water Tera type. Before we get into the 4 raid builds, let's just talk about Samurott real quick so we know what we're dealing with. The main difference between regular Samurott and Hisuian Samurott is the attack and special attack flip. Even though the special attack was higher, barely higher, it's a regular Samurott has an attack stat of 100 and a special attack of 108. And with that 7-star raid boss, we saw a completely physical build. 100% critical hit ratio, except for one move, which was Bulldoze. In this case, we do have a 108 attack and a 100 special attack with Hisuian Samurott with the ability Sharpness. Now, Sharpness is significantly more annoying than a lot of the other 7-star abilities we've seen in the past. We've talked about Greninja and Cinderace and Delphox all having a really useless ability in raids. We can also look back at last week with the 7-star Eevee, with which I said that every 7-star has had their hidden ability. Eevee was no surprise there. Even though Eevee had a better ability that was not a hidden ability, they still went with the hidden ability, which did not matter. I believe it was Anticipation, which did not matter for this. In this case, Sharpness is actually a very annoying ability, and we'll want to remove it as fast as possible. Sharpness, what it does is it boosts the power of slicing type moves by 50%. That's huge. That's a lot of extra damage for any of the moves that Samurott can get, and it gets a lot of slicing type moves. On top of that, Samurott doesn't have a lot of status type moves that could benefit it. The two biggest ones would be Focus Energy and Swords Dance. This would be very similar to the first Samurott raid build, where it did use Focus Energy and Swords Dance. And the thing about Focus Energy and why I like Focus Energy is Focus Energy cannot be cleared by anyone, whether that's you or the raid boss. So once it's active, it's going to stay active until you faint, which is why I've always recommended Focus Energy on builds like Iron Hands, because if somebody is charming you, if somebody is reducing your attack, you will just always have Focus Energy, you will always do more damage, and you will ideally always crit. And so the moves that qualify for Sharpness are Aerial Ace, Air Cutter, Air Slash, Aqua Cutter, Behemoth Blade, Bitter Blade, Ceaseless Edge, which is Samurott's signature move, Cross Poison, Cut, Fury Cutter, Kotao Cleave, Leaf Blade, Night Slash, Population Bomb. That doesn't make a bunch of sense, but that's probably a Japanese translation thing. Psyblade, Psycho Cut, Razor Leaf, Razor Shell, Sacred Sword, Slash, Solar Blade, Stone Axe, and X Scissor. Samurott gets over half of these moves. Again, means that these moves will have a 50% increase in damage, on top of the fact that they could probably crit. So going back to Samurott's signature move, which is Ceaseless Edge, has a high critical hit chance, qualifies for Sharpness. It will also leave Spikes, which is not that big of a deal, and it will get the same type of attack bonus of being a dark type move. Now, Night Slash is slightly stronger, barely. So for my calculations, we did base it off Night Slash just in case it had that. But of course, if we can survive Night Slash, we can survive Ceaseless Edge. We also get Aqua Cutter and Razor Shell. Those are both strong type, physical water type moves that do 100% critical hit if Samurott uses Focus Energy. And not only do they get the same type attack bonus, they get the Tera Water bonus on top. Meaning we don't want to take water damage because it will hit very hard. Finally, Samurott has really good coverage with things like Air Slash, Aerial Ace, Sacred Sword, X Scissor, and a ton of other moves that are probably on screen right now. And a lot of those moves qualify for the slicing bonus. In the past, we can usually control that with Reflect or Light Screen or Snarl or Chilling Water. But the thing about critical hits is they ignore Light Screen and Reflect. They also ignore status drops. So even if we were to Chilling Water to reduce Samurott's attack stat, the critical hit would ignore that. Now, there are some ways around that, but if we are expecting Samurott to do a turn 0 Focus Energy before we can taunt, before we can stop that, it's going to critical hit most of its moves throughout the entire game. Now, there are some moves that it gets that do not get critical hit boosted, like Aerial Ace or Aqua Cutter or X Scissor. Those moves won't hit as hard because they won't be constant critical hits. But I would expect a strong Dark type constant critical hit and a strong Water type constant critical hit, which is probably going to be Ceaseless Edge and Aqua Cutter. And so we're going to base our 4 builds off of those 2 moves specifically. And this was really hard to build for because Samurott gets such good coverage. So we are building 4 Pokemon that work together as a team that you can mix and match that should be able to take down Hisuian Samurott no matter what moves it has. But obviously we could tweak these builds, or other Pokemon could be available once we see its final moveset. That being said, let's talk about our first Pokemon that we're going to build, which is Go-Goat. Now, if you've been following my raid builds for a while, the EVs on this Go-Goat are actually exactly the same as what we built for the 7-star Chestnut raid, but we are changing a couple moves around. Go-Goat does have the ability Grass Pelt. What that does is it's a really cool, unique ability that only Go-Goat gets. When grassy terrain is up, Go-Goat gets a huge defense boost as long as grassy terrain stays up. Now, grassy terrain also boosts all grass-type moves by 30%. So that means your Giga Drains will hit harder, which means you will get more health back. This applies to everyone on the field. And I specifically said grass-type moves. You do not need it to be a grass-type Pokemon to benefit from the 30% increase that grassy terrain provides grass-type moves. You just have to use a grass-type attack. This is going to come into play later. Go-Goat also is one of our all-stars, and I think no matter what moves Samurott has, Go-Goat will be probably the best to build because Go-Goat has access to Worry Seed. If we can open up with Worry Seed, we can shut down the slicing ability, which reduces damage for everyone on our team. We only have to use it once, only one Go-Goat has to use it, but suppressing that ability, that slicing ability right away, will significantly make the raid easier, whether you are playing with a group of people or playing with just another friend. Big Root will give us even more recovery with Giga Drain, since that's our main attacking move. Big Root is going to be better than Shell Bell here. And we're ultimately going to open with Worry Seed, apply Grassy Terrain. If somebody else doesn't apply that for us, if somebody else does, that's great. Use Giga Drain. If Sun goes up from another Pokemon, we can use Growth, which will act like a nasty plot in the sun, resulting in our Giga Drain doing more, which is resulting in more health back. And because of Go-Goat's ability, we should be able to survive any move that Samurott throws at us, on top of constant recovery with Giga Drain. Now, if you are playing with a friend and they are confident in laying Grassy Terrain, you can squeeze Solar Beam in there and maybe Sunny Day to then do even more damage. But I think we're going to want to constantly put Giga Drain pressure on to keep Go-Goat healthy. And I can easily see 2 Go-Goats really working super well together. One opening up with Grassy Terrain, activating both your Grass Pelts, and then one opening up with Worry Seed to remove the slicing ability. Also, this Go-Goat is just really good in any raid that you would need a Grass-type Pokemon, so I still think it's worth building, even if you don't end up using it. But I think this will be the all-star of the raid. Shifting gears, I think we have a really good partner to go right next to Go-Goat if you want something different. We're going to go with Torterra with the ability Shell Armor. And we're going to give Torterra the Heat Rock to put up Sunny Day. Now, I just talked about how if Sunny Day is up, that will let us spam Solar Beam no matter what. But in this case, we also want Sunny Day to go up to reduce Water-type damage. I suspect that there's going to be a lot of Belly Bolts or just a lot of Electric-type Pokemon, and they do not resist Water-type attacks. Grass Pokemon do. So while the Grass Pokemon don't necessarily have to worry about Water-type attacks, other Pokemon will. Not only are we expecting the slicing damage, which we can remove, but we're expecting the stab damage of Water-type moves. Plus, we are expecting the Water Tera damage to stack on top. So Water-type moves are going to be hit really hard. So Sunny Day is going to help anyone who isn't a Grass-type Pokemon, but it will also let other Pokemon use Solar Beam very easily. I talked about earlier how Reflect and Light Screen doesn't work for critical hits. Since Torterra cannot get critical hit, Reflect actually works here. And there are some moves that do not get a guaranteed critical hit, like X-Scissor. So while X-Scissor does get the slicing bonus, which we're going to remove, Reflect can still be valuable for other moves that Samurott might have that aren't guaranteed critical hit. We'll have Reflect here. It will work for all of the moves on Torterra, but only some of the moves for the rest of your team. If we feel like we don't need that, we can also put Worry Seed back here, but assuming that we are standing next to a Go-Goat to Worry Seed for us, it's still nice to have 2 different Pokemon that can suppress the ability. Finally, we have Growth, which benefits with Sunny Day. I just explained that with Go-Goat. And then we have Giga Drain for constant recovery. We don't need a Shell Bell or a Big Root here. I think having Sunny Day up for 8 turns and not needing to reapply it so you can squeeze in a Growth and Giga Drain, you're going to get so much health back anyways because of that combo. I don't think we'll need that held item there, but it's your raid build. I'm just giving you options if you want to customize these a little bit more. Hopefully this is helpful. And if my raid builds are helpful, feel free to like, comment, subscribe. I believe only about 30% of you who watch my videos are subscribed. So if you could, just check to make sure you're subscribed. That would really help us out, especially as we are approaching 200,000 on YouTube. So thank you for that. Our next Pokemon is going to be Appleton with the Thick Fat ability. It is possible that Samurott does get access to Ice Beam and Blizzard, but we do have to watch out for that. Samurott's special type moves don't go super deep, and its physical moves have the same coverage, so that's why we're not putting a lot into special defense. All of its special moves don't have high crit, so even if it does focus energy and it does have 1 or 2 special type moves, Light Screen will still be valuable here for the team in case it does run something like an Ice Beam. Apple Acid works like Acid Spray, it's just not as strong. Acid Spray reduces the special defense by -2. Apple Acid is by -1. It's still very good. It works through Raid Shield, and we should be using special attackers because Samurott's special defense is not as high as its physical defense. Even going back to a Pokemon like Go-Goat, Go-Goat is a mixed attacker. While its attack is slightly higher, it makes more sense to use Giga Drain than it does Horn Leech because of Samurott's defense and special defense being significantly lower. We have Giga Drain for the recovery here. We have Grassy Terrain, as we've talked about before, benefits everyone, boosts that recovery and that damage from Giga Drain. But we are doing Shell Bell. The reason we're doing Shell Bell instead of Big Root is Big Root doesn't activate on Apple Acid, and I really think how we play Appleton is opening up with a Grassy Terrain or a Light Screen, depending on that moveset, or Grassy Terrain if you're standing next to that Go-Goat, because you want that Go-Goat to Worry Seed first. And then we're going to Apple Acid, Giga Drain, Apple Acid, Giga Drain. Appleton might be a little bit more frail than the 2 Pokemon we've talked before. So with the constant recovery of Apple Acid, Giga Drain, we're going to have that constant flow of HP that we won't have to worry about. And of course, if it doesn't have any special type moves, we can replace Light Screen with a Solar Beam or a Sunny Day. Even so, with the Shell Bell, I would say if it doesn't have any special type moves, get rid of Light Screen, get rid of Giga Drain, and then go with the Sunny Day, Solar Beam, Apple Acid, Grassy Terrain. But probably you are the only Pokemon here that can reduce its special attack. So you might want to lean into Apple Acid a little bit more, of course, because you're going to be using that move to benefit the entire team. And our final Pokemon is probably one of the weirdest one, and I already know that not everyone has a Volcanion, but our final Pokemon is Volcanion with the ability Water Absorb. Volcanion is doing one single thing here, and it is applying Burn. There's not a lot of Pokemon that get access to Scald this generation that can survive constant critical hit ceaseless edges, but Volcanion is one. If we can burn this Samurott, it almost guarantees an auto win no matter what team we have. I say that in understanding that you're watching the video and understanding what Samurott's going to do. But Scald has a 30% chance to burn. Now, I know that Volcanion has a signature move. It is still 30% chance to burn. The only difference is that move is 5 PP. It's a little bit stronger. We don't care about the damage coming from Scald. We are just hoping that we can get that burn off. And the Scald works when Raid Shield is up. So even when we know that Samurott's going to reset its stats and put up its Raid Shield, we're going to switch back to Scald because as long as we can burn Samurott, the Raid will be pretty much in the bag for us if we can get that constant burn. We also have Haze here to remove any Swords Dances. If I remember the first 7-star Samurott, it only Swords Danced once, and it was when its shield initially broke. Although maybe if the raid took longer, it would have Swords Danced more often. But the Haze is an emergency button in case we see Focus Energy and then we see a Swords Dance. Haze will remove our teammates' stats and will remove any Apple Acids, so be wary of that. But it's probably possible that Samurott's going to clear its own stats anyways and then Swords Dance. We want to remove that Swords Dance. So the Haze is the emergency Swords Dance button. And then finally, we have another Pokemon to set Sunny Day here. I've already talked about how reducing water-type damage will help non-grass-type Pokemon survive, but also will let us be able to use a strong Solar Beam coming out of Volcanion into Samurott with the Shell Bell item. If it doesn't have Swords Dance at all, we can replace Haze with Will-O-Wisp. We could try to open up with an 85% accuracy Will-O-Wisp, but Will-O-Wisp will not work when the Raid Shield is up. If you don't have a Volcanion and you want to do the Scald strategy, I think the Pokemon that can maybe do that at best is a Alola, because it is really bulky with a high HP stat. It does get access to Scald. In this case, not a mythical Pokemon like Volcanion. So I understand that not everyone has Volcanion. I think the first 3 in any combination, 2 Go-Goats, 1 Torterra, 1 Appleton, 2 Appletons, 2 Go-Goats, I think we'll be able to handle Samurott no problem, even with the final moveset. So those are my raid builds. Hopefully they are helpful to you. If there are any tweaks, all of these builds have 6 moves. And the reason I give 6 moves is to not only let you think about the possible potential of these Pokemon, but, if one move is not working for you, like Reflect, there's 2 other moves that you can already consider off the bat. So whatever seems to work for you, if that's changing held items, if that's changing 1 or 2 moves, all the EVs were calculated with critical hits in mind and with Samurott's diverse move pool. Like always, if you need help, feel free to come over to my Twitch stream. I'll be streaming on Thanksgiving and the day after Thanksgiving. I will help as many people get through the Samurott as possible. If there are any tweaks, I will let you guys know. If there are major tweaks, I will post another video. But I think we've covered our bases here. I hope you have a great holiday if you celebrate. Thank you for watching. Thank you for making it to the end. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye.